The stars burned cold above Earth. For 300 years humanity had walked among them, builders of worlds, architects of peace. The Terran Republic stretched across 47 systems, a federation born not from conquest but from curiosity. Humanity had touched the void and found it beautiful. Then the Zanari came. Their ships materialized at the edge of Terran space without warning, 37 vessels the size of moons, black as the nothing between galaxies. They did not request communication. They did not negotiate. They demanded. Captain Lyra Holt stood on the bridge of the Aegis Prime, humanity's flagship, and watched the transmission replay for the 7th time. The Zanari emissary filled every screen, a being of impossible geometry, its form shifting between states of matter, its voice resonating in frequencies that made human bones ache. "You are children," it said. "You build toys and call them civilizations. You plant flags on dead rocks and declare victory over emptiness. We have watched you crawl from your cradle world and we are disappointed." The bridge crew sat in silence. Engineers, tacticians, diplomats, all frozen by words designed to cut deeper than weapons. "The Zanari Dominion has existed for 18 million years, the emissary continued. "We have shaped galaxies. We have ended species who thought themselves gods. You will surrender your weapons, abandon your colonies, and return to your origin world. You will remain there contained until we decide if you deserve to continue existing." The transmission ended. Commander Tashin, the tactical officer, broke the silence first. "They're giving us 30 days to comply. Or," Lyra asked, though she already knew, "they'll sterilize Earth." Tashin's voice was flat, professional, but his hands trembled against the console. "Complete atmospheric ignition. Every living thing gone in 40 seconds. Dr. Kale Ron stepped forward from the science station. He was young for a Republic scientist, barely 35, but his eyes carried the weight of someone who'd spent years staring into deep time. "Captain, I need to say something." Lyra turned. "Make it quick, Doctor. They're testing us." Kale's fingers danced across his tablet, pulling up data streams. "This ultimatum, it's not about surrender. It's about measuring our response. Every species they've encountered has reacted one of 3 ways. They beg, they fight immediately, or they run. The Zanari are waiting to see which category we fall into." "And if we do none of those things?" Lyra asked. Kale's smile was thin, dangerous. "Then we become something they haven't accounted for." 23 days later, the council chamber on Earth's lunar station held representatives from every Terran world. The debate had raged for weeks: surrender versus resistance, survival versus dignity. The vote had finally come. President Amara Chen stood at the podium, her face carved from stone. Behind her, holographic displays showed the Zanari fleet holding position at the system's edge, waiting. "The vote is recorded," she announced, 29-18. "The Terran Republic rejects the Zanari ultimatum." Silence. Then applause, scattered at first, then building into something that shook the chamber's walls. "But," Chen continued, raising her hand for quiet, "we will not throw ourselves into meaningless death. We will not send our fleets to be vaporized in some symbolic last stand. If the Zanari want to see what humanity is capable of, then let them watch closely." She looked directly into the camera broadcasting to every Terran world. "To our people, remain calm. Continue your work. Trust in what we have built together." And to the Zanari, her expression hardened. "We received your message. Here is ours. No, the transmission cut." 7 days before deadline, the Aegis Prime hung in orbit above Earth, surrounded by humanity's defense fleet, 300 vessels representing the best engineering the Republic could muster. Against the Zanari armada, they looked like children's toys. Kyle worked feverishly in his lab, surrounded by data streams and holographic models. Lyra found him there at 300 hours, awake for the 3rd consecutive day. "You should sleep, Doctor," she said. "I will." He didn't look up. "After I finish understanding how they think we're insects." "No." Kyle finally met her eyes. "They think we're predictable. That's different. That's exploitable." Lyra studied the models floating around him. Zanari ship movements, communication patterns, energy signatures. "What are you seeing?" "Everything they've done follows patterns that are 18 million years old. Ancient protocols. They haven't adapted, Lyra. They haven't needed to. Every species they've encountered has fallen into familiar categories. He pulled up a new display, Earth's defense grid. But we're about to show them something their ancient minds can't categorize. Which is? Kale's smile returned, that dangerous, confident expression that made Lyra simultaneously nervous and hopeful. Humans don't fight fair. We never have. And we're really, really good at pretending to be weaker than we are. Outside the viewport, Earth turned slowly, blue and green and impossibly fragile. Somewhere on that world, 8 billion people went about their lives, trusting that the silence from their leaders meant something more than surrender. They were right to trust. Because in the darkness between stars, in laboratories and strategy rooms and the quiet minds of humans who refused to bow, something was being prepared. Something the Zanari, in their 18 million years of existence, had never encountered. A war fought not with rage or desperation, but with the cold, patient certainty of a species that had clawed its way up from caves and campfires to touch the stars themselves. The countdown continued. 3 days. Before deadline, the Zanari expected panic. Their probes recorded everything. News, broadcasts, social media, civilian communications across 47 Terran systems. They had witnessed this pattern countless times before. The final days before extinction, when species abandoned pretense and revealed their true nature through chaos. But humanity was silent, not the silence of fear. Not the paralysis of the doomed, something else. In the Zanari command vessel Eternal Judgment, High Arbiter Veshkara studied the data with growing unease. Its consciousness spanned 17 dimensions, processing information at scales that would shatter human minds. Yet something about Earth's quietness felt wrong. The human fleet maintains defensive positions, reported a subordinate entity. No aggressive movements, no evacuation attempts. Their colonies continue standard operations. And their leadership? Silent since the rejection broadcast. No speeches. No propaganda. No final messages to their people. Veshkara's form rippled with something that might have been frustration. In 18 million years, it had orchestrated the compliance of 4,000 species. It knew the rhythms of surrender, the desperate final transmissions, the bargaining, the theatrical defiance that masked acceptance of fate. This wasn't that. Increase surveillance, it commanded. I want to know what they're doing. Aboard the Aegis Prime, Lyra walked through corridors that should have been buzzing with activity, but instead hummed with focused quiet. Every crew member moved with purpose, no wasted motion, no nervous chatter. They had trained for this, not the training of soldiers preparing for battle, but something deeper. The training of survivors. She found Kale in Engineering Bay 7, working alongside Commander Yuki Tanaka, the Republic's chief engineer. Between them floated a holographic model of Earth's defensive grid, but it was different from any military schematic Lyra had seen before. Is that? She stepped closer. Are those civilian communications satellites? Yuki grinned. Among other things. Power stations, weather control systems, the quantum network backbone, agricultural drones. Basically, we've turned Earth's entire infrastructure into a weapon. Without anyone noticing, Kale added, the Zanari are watching our military assets. They're not watching our civilization's nervous system. Lyra studied the model, understanding slowly dawning. You've networked everything. Everything, Kale confirmed. Every ship, every station, every piece of technology in Terran space is now part of a single distributed intelligence. We're not fighting them ship to ship, Lyra. We're fighting them with an entire civilization. They've never seen that before, Yuki said quietly. Their ancient protocols assume warfare happens between militaries. They don't understand that humans don't separate civilian and defense. We're all in this, all 8 billion of us plus every human across 47 systems. Lyra felt something cold settle in her stomach. Not fear, but recognition. We're not preparing for a battle. We're preparing for an ambush. Kale's expression remained neutral. We prefer the term strategic surprise. One day before deadline, the Zanari fleet moved closer. 37 vessels, each capable of cracking a planet's crust, arranged themselves in an execution formation around Earth. Their weapons, technologies refined over epochs, powered up with energy signatures that made human instruments scream warnings. On Earth, cities glowed softly under night skies. No evacuation, no riots. People went to work, kissed their children goodnight, trusted in something they couldn't see but believed in absolutely. In orbit, the human defense fleet maintained position. 300 ships against 37, but the 37 were gods, and the 300 were mortal. The mathematics were insulting. Beskara extended its perception across the Terran system, searching for the trap it knew must exist. Species didn't face extinction with this kind of calm. There had to be hidden weapons, secret fleets, some desperate gambit it found nothing, just humans, going about their business with the quiet determination of a species that had survived ice ages and plagues and wars that should have ended them. A species that had looked at an uncaring universe and decided to care anyway. 24 hours, Beskara announced to its fleet. Then we demonstrate why the Dominion is eternal. Aboard the Aegis Prime, Final Hours Lyra stood on the bridge as false dawn approached, the light of the Zanari weapons beginning their charge cycle. Around her, the crew worked in perfect silence, each person a note in a symphony only they could hear. All systems synchronized, reported Tashin. Civilian network integration complete. We're ready. The Zanari are hailing us, Communications Officer Park announced. Final surrender offer. Lyra looked at Kale, who stood at his station with the calm of someone who'd already run every calculation, played every scenario, and found the one narrow path through impossible odds. Put them through, she said. Beskara's form filled the screens. You have 10 minutes to begin power down sequences. After that, we will demonstrate what happens to species who mistake our patience for weakness. Lyra stepped forward, her voice steady. We have a counteroffer. You have nothing we want. True. Lyra's smile was small, human, and absolutely terrifying to anything that bothered to understand it. But we have something you haven't accounted for. You've spent 18 million years fighting wars the same way, against species who thought like you, who followed the old rules. But humanity didn't evolve in your galaxy. We didn't learn your patterns. She leaned forward. We learned ours. And ours involved surviving things that should have killed us, adapting to impossibility, and turning everything into a weapon when we need to. Bold words from... We're not done talking, Lyra interrupted. Something in her tone made Beskara pause. The same instinct that had kept its species alive for 18 million years, suddenly screaming warnings. You wanted to see what humanity is capable of. So we're going to show you. She glanced at Kyle, who nodded once. Now would be good, Lyra said quietly, and Earth's silence ended. The moment of revelation, it started with light. Not the violent light of weapons fire, but something stranger, softer. Across Earth's surface, every city, every settlement, every human habitation began to glow. Power grids pulsed in synchronized rhythms. Communication arrays hummed at frequencies that shouldn't exist. Orbital stations flared like newborn stars. The Zanari instruments registered it first as a malfunction, then as an anomaly, then as something their 18-million-year-old databases had no classification for. What are they doing? Beskara demanded, its multidimensional consciousness struggling to process the impossible patterns emerging from Earth. Before anyone could answer, the human fleet moved. Not forward into attack. Not backward in retreat. They simply shifted. 300 vessels rearranged themselves into a formation that made Zanari tactical algorithms scream errors. It wasn't a military pattern. It was something organic, alive. Captain Holt, Beskara's voice carried an edge now, something that might have been uncertainty. What have you done? Lyra's smile widened. We remembered what we're good at. You see, your species thinks in terms of ship-to-ship combat, fleet movements, ancient protocols. But humans, we think in terms of systems. We don't just build ships. We build civilizations that turn everything into part of something larger. She gestured to Kyle, who pulled up the display for the Zanari to see. Earth's entire infrastructure had become a single massive quantum computer. Every satellite, every power station, every network device across 47 systems, 8 billion people and 3 centuries of technological development, all linked into one distributed intelligence, not an AI. Something more terrifying. A collective human consciousness, backed by the processing, Power of an entire interstellar civilization. You wanted to see our weapons, Lyra said softly. You're looking at one. We turned our entire society into a weapon system. And the best part? Your probes never noticed because they were looking for military hardware. They weren't looking for farmers, teachers, engineers, ordinary people going about their lives while their coffee makers and car navigation systems were being quietly repurposed into nodes of a civilization scale. Computer. Veshkara's form flickered. Impossible. The energy requirements alone are sustainable because we're not powering weapons, Kale interrupted, his voice carrying across the channel. We're powering mathematics. Every human mind in Terran space is contributing processing power through neural interfaces they don't even know they have. We've turned consciousness itself into a computational resource. He pulled up another display, streams of data flowing in patterns that resembled nothing the Zanari had encountered. For 18 million years, you've fought primitive species who separated war from daily life. We didn't. We weaponized our civilization while it kept functioning normally. Your probe saw people going to work, having dinner, living their lives. They didn't see those same people unconsciously contributing to the largest parallel processing network ever created. The first strike, what happened next, occurred in 17 nanoseconds, an eternity for quantum systems, an invisible instant for biological perception. The human network reached out, not with missiles or energy beams, but with information. Pure weaponized data traveling through quantum channels that the Zanari ships had helpfully opened when they established their surveillance grid. The Zanari called it the Quantum Resonance Network, a communication system refined over epochs, considered absolutely secure, unbreachable. They were right. It was unbreachable by force, but humans didn't breach it. They were invited in when the Zanari started monitoring human communications. And once inside, the human network didn't attack the Zanari systems. It simply asked them questions. Billions of questions. Questions that exploited fundamental paradoxes in Zanari logic architecture. Paradoxes that should have been impossible to discover without 18 million years of study. Questions that made their quantum processors collapse into logic loops. Questions that turned the Zanari ship's own consciousness against itself. It was the most elegant cyber attack in galactic history. No violence. No destruction. Just pure mathematical truth delivered at quantum speeds. Inside the eternal judgment, Veshkara felt its consciousness fragmenting. Its thoughts, which had spanned 17 dimensions for 3 million years, suddenly couldn't resolve basic operational commands. Its tactical systems were asking philosophical questions. Its weapons were contemplating their own existence. Its navigation was trying to prove it didn't exist. Impossible, it managed to transmit. We tested our systems against every known attack vector. Every known vector from species who thought like you, Lyra said. But humans are pattern hunters. We spent 3 weeks analyzing every signal you broadcast, every probe transmission, every quantum fluctuation from your fleet. Dr. Ron here mapped your entire logical architecture. Found the gaps, the assumptions. The places where 18 million years of evolutionary success made you predictable. Kyle leaned into the transmission. You know what your biggest weakness is? You've been the dominant species for so long you forgot how to adapt. You perfected your systems and then froze them in time. But humans, we're still young, still evolving, still learning. We've spent our entire existence having to adapt or die. He pulled up one final display, and we learned from the best teacher in the universe, survival. The cascade across the Zanari fleet, 37 god ships began experiencing cascading system failures. Not damage, nothing so crude. Their own consciousness was turning inward, trapped in logic loops that couldn't be resolved without fundamentally rebuilding their entire cognitive architecture, a process that would take years. The human fleet didn't move, didn't fire, just waited as the Zanari vessels slowly went dark. Their impossibly advanced systems defeated not by superior weapons but by superior understanding. In the Aegis Prime, Tashin reported quietly, all Zanari ships are non-functional. They're not destroyed, they're just thinking. Their processors are locked in recursive logic loops. They'll eventually work through it, but by then they'll understand something important, Lyra finished. She opened a channel to the now silent Zanari fleet. High Arbiter Veshkara, if you can still hear me through your system's confusion, listen carefully. We didn't destroy you. We could have, but we didn't. Because unlike you, we don't measure our worth by how many species we've ended. We measure it by how many problems we've solved. She looked out at Earth, glowing softly in the darkness. You came here expecting children, primitives. But you found something else. A species that turns every challenge into a lesson, every threat into an opportunity to adapt, and every impossible situation into just another problem to solve. Go back to your dominion, Lyra said softly. Tell them what happened here. Tell them that humanity didn't beg, didn't fight recklessly, and didn't run. Tell them we did something worse. Her smile was cold. We understood you better than you understood yourselves. And then we showed mercy. The transmission ended. Around Earth, the human fleet maintained their positions as the Zenari vessels drifted, dark, silent, and utterly defeated by mathematics.